Hi everybody, I'm GAMESD, and I imagine after looking at the title of this video you're probably saying, what the f*** are you talking about? Are you f***ing stupid or something? F*** is this shit? That's a very good question, and it's one that over the course of this video I hope to explore further. You may also be asking whether I know what an RPG is, or if I played real RPGs from 2017, such as Nier Automata or Persona 5. Also, didn't I play Breath of the Wild and do a video about that? Well, the answer is yes, not all the way through, no, and yes, the link is below. Listen, I have a pretty good reasoning behind this. There's not just shock value to get you watching the video. Though, if you are watching the video because of the title, obviously my plan worked pretty well. Just to get the blurb out of the way. Super Mario Odyssey is the latest game to star Nintendo's well-regarded plummet, and the first to return to a style of gameplay pioneered nearly 20 years earlier in Super Mario 64. But Mario games, and especially 64, usually don't fall under the bracket of a role-playing game, save for Paper Mario and the Mario & Luigi games. But with Odyssey, Nintendo have created an experience that has as much in common with Dungeons & Dragons as it does with Mario's previous outings. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why, and give my reasoning for why Super Mario Odyssey is 2017's best role-playing game, in my opinion. So, what is an RPG? Well, assuming you clicked on this video ready to destroy me in the comments section, you probably already have an idea in your mind's eye of what the genre looks like. Whether it's The Witcher, Dark Souls, Fallout, Pokemon, or even perhaps the most popular game in the genre, Final Fantasy. And all these titles follow common trends that were codified in the original pen and paper role-playing games. But despite fitting into a similar genre bracket, they all play very differently to one another. The Witcher and Dark Souls, for example, are more in the mode of real-time action-adventure titles, whereas Pokemon and Final Fantasy are turn-based strategy games with menu-based combat. Even the most familiar elements of the RPG, experience points, equipment, and statistics, have found their way into other genres over the years. Call of Duty's multiplayer being the most apt example of applying the RPG feedback loop to level your profile. So what I mean to say is, the term RPG has kind of lost its meaning recently, which certainly helps me with making my argument. But that's not to say there's not certain maxims at its core that remains true across all games in its genre. Usually they're set in well-realised worlds designed to be explored and interacted on, with challenge relating to your powers of perception. They may be a platform for telling a story that can only work in a non-linear format, or let players craft their own through in-game systems. But to me, the most obvious selling point is in the game. You're taking on a role, or more specifically, you're slipping into the shoes of a problem solver. In a first-person shooter, your gun is the problem solver. In a puzzle game, the main mechanic is the problem solver. In a platforming game, jumping is the problem solver. And, well, most Super Mario games and Super Mario Odyssey certainly carries the silver. But in RPGs, there's so many different problems that not one single thing can solve everything. Except the person you embody. The role you've undertaken is the problem solver. So in Odyssey, Super Mario is the problem solver. And while we've inhabited him since Donkey Kong in '81, Odyssey is the first game to fully understand what the character can achieve outside of jumping. Not every task can be completed through leaps and bounds, and some require a lot more lateral thinking. Take for example a guy sitting on a bench. In a puzzle game you'd probably be asked to figure out a way to get him off the bench. In a racing game you'd probably drive around him in the bench. In a shooter you'd probably, well, you get the idea. In a regular Super Mario game you'd pass him as an obstacle, but in Odyssey, taking on the role of a friendly plumber, you instead sit alongside him, listen to his worries, make him feel better about himself, which leads to getting a power moon. That's another thing about Odyssey. The flagpole of games past has been replaced with a currency much like its non-linear originators, and these can be rewarded for pretty much anything. Much like experience points or in-game items are rewarded to adventurers in other RPGs. But I digress. This interaction wouldn't have worked with a character like Duke Nukem, who'd probably tell the guy to blow it out of his arse, or Kratos, who'd probably cut through the guy to get green orbs. This interaction only works because we know Super Mario is a good guy. Now, if the game was just about solving problems that only Super Mario could, such as helping plant trees, breaking boxes, catching birds, or even some underground plumbing, it'd be pretty great. But Odyssey kicks things up a notch with 2 inclusions. Bowie, Madonna, Mario. What do these icons all have in common? Well, they're all masters of reinvention. From Ziggy Stardust to the Thin White Duke, Material Girl to Erotica. These artists moved into personas fitting for new eras and genres, still retaining their established identities. And Mario is no different. Whether it's his flame-throwing white overalls, a raccoon costume that lets you take to the skies, or a heavy metal suit that sends you sinking to the ocean floor. As well as these power-ups, he's also taken on guises appropriate for his current occupation, whether it's medical scrubs for his tenure as Dr. Mario, his jungle explorer's get-up when he's picking at the bricks of Picross, or a hard hat and utility belt for building the levels of Mario Maker. And it's fortunate that his design remains simple yet strong, that even when he's designed in all these ridiculous looks, he's still immediately recognisable. Odyssey pays homage to these extracurricular costumes and adds a few new ones to the mix with the introduction of Crazy Cap. Here is where you'll be spending most of your in-game currency to dress Mario in a range of goofy costumes. Not only does this play into the nature of Mario's globe-trotting adventure as he dresses in country-appropriate clothing, but they can also be used to solve puzzles that your regular overalls can't. Take for example this glum-looking guy at the end of an alleyway. You need something to cheer him up. What better than a clown? Or how about this sugar skull who only let you in if you're dressed for mariachi? Or if you're down to your bare bones. Much like equipment can make all the difference in a textbook RPG, these costumes are very much their own problem solver in Odyssey, not to mention really help you get into the role-playing mindset. Dark Souls certainly has its own flair for fashion, so why not Super Mario as well? For your consideration, hit the random button next time you use the wardrobe and see what happens. Maybe think of who this character is and why he is like he is. What actions would he take? How would he interact with the world around him? Is he antagonistic, pragmatic, motivated by wealth or altruism? What is his goals, his desires? And what kind of Mario game would he star in? It's telling that Super Mario Odyssey wasn't Nintendo's first foray into rethinking their iconic characters' looks. Breath of the Wild also overhauled its equipment system by including new clothing options, some with their own stat boosts and effects. Along with Splatoon 2's focus on fashion and Animal Crossing's homemade nature, Nintendo is getting the knack for letting their franchises dress up. There's gonna be a missed opportunity if you can't customize Samus' suit in Metroid Prime 4. Oh yeah, right, no, Mario RPG, okay, sorry. It's not just the clothes that makes Mario a versatile tool to fix problems. To say that Super Mario Odyssey is a good Mario game wouldn't quite be doing things justice, because there's also a great Goomba game, and a great Koopa game, and a great Sherm game, and an absolutely fantastic Pokio game. Because Odyssey's most surprising USP is swapping Mario out for another entity in the world. With a throw of your hat, you can inhibit characters both classic and contemporary to complete tasks the plumber can't do, even when in costume. Think of these guys as an evolution on Mario's original power-ups, but recontextualized as creatures in the world. Not only are they better equipped for certain jobs, but they open new opportunities as well. Take for example this inquisitive Bonneter, who wants to meet a particular baddie up close. It's not enough to just take a picture of one, instead, you bring him over so they can meet it face to face. Then there's the Shy Shiverin, too bashful to compete in a race. So you give them a confidence boost, by, of course, taking over their body and winning the prize for yourself. This isn't to mention touches like how the locals of these locales interact with the monsters. Super Mario Odyssey's captures feel like an evolution on something that Rareware hinted at with Banjo-Kazooie's transformations, swapping out the bear and bird for a level-appropriate character that could solve problems the duo couldn't. It's perhaps no surprise that that title started life as an RPG. carrying over that inspiration well into the final product. So Super Mario Odyssey isn't just a platforming game starring Super Mario. It's a role-playing game where you take on the role of Super Mario to solve problems only he can, most of which do involve platforming, but a lot that ask him to use his personal traits, costume collection, and even capturability to solve challenges that jumping can't do. Even previous points I made about RPGs, their worlds and storytelling, are carried over to Odyssey. Going beyond the Mushroom Kingdom is a chance to see locales and locals unlike anything you'd be used to in a regular Mario title. The hyper-realism of New Donk City and the low-poly day-glow aesthetic of the Luncheon Kingdom don't just look like they're not part of the same world, but they don't even look like they're part of the same game. This is the kind of culture clash that in other RPGs would be done through dialogue-delivered exposition, but in Odyssey, it's all shown to you, and open up to let you roam around in it and soak it in. Story has never been a strong suit for the Mario series, and if you come into Odyssey expecting Planescape Torment, then I'm afraid you're probably going to be left a bit disappointed. But where it doesn't match in regards to its momentum open writing, it instead makes up for it in the gradual change brought on by the gameplay. The pyramid rising out of the sand, ridding the Bubble Kingdom of its tentacled menace, or even bringing white flowers back to the Wooded Kingdom in a scene straight out of Snake Eater. These are worlds that change in accordance to you fixing them up. Something that you probably wouldn't see play out in a more linear Super Mario title. Even at the end, when more moons are added to the world and Peach starts her own globetrotting trip, these are asides that not only provide new gameplay opportunities, but they also add more lore to the experience. Sure, it may not have the sprawling medieval vistas of The Witcher 3, the dense lore of Dark Souls, or even the timeless story and characters of the PlayStation classic Final Fantasy IV, but Wait, what do you mean that's not 4? It came out after 3. What do you mean it wasn't free in Japan? It was in the SNES video I did. Okay, it doesn't matter. Whatever. But Super Mario Odyssey did a lot to put me in the shoes of a character who we've known for a long time, but have rarely seen in worlds outside of linear obstacle courses. It asked me to solve problems not by jumping on them, but by interacting with them in a multitude of ways. Sure, it may not be Nier Automata or Persona 5, which I guess were the only RPGs that came out that year. Don't fact check me on that one. But even without a rigid adherence to menus or experience points, Super Mario Odyssey showed me that sometimes a game doesn't have to wear the trappings of a genre to be a great example of it. And that's why Super Mario Odyssey is the best role-playing game of 2017. In my opinion. Obviously. Next time, why is Deus Ex a great racing game?